It is time for the Inside Edge Hockey News Radio Show, your home for National Hockey League news, information, and opinions. It is an exciting and often controversial approach to the great game of hockey. Get ready for breakdowns of current hockey topics. It's a no-holds-barred approach to happenings throughout the hockey world. And now, your host from Inside Edge Hockey News, Brad Baroud.
For Florida. Barkov springs a man. Walking in, Matheson. Mrazek in desperation with a poke check. And Carolina's back out. Here comes Aho. Aho over the line. He'll delay on Barkov. It goes off his stick, deflects out the center. It's a foot race. Barkov gets to it. In free is Huberdeau. A chance. Shot down again. Peter Mrazek. Absolutely splendid. Through center ice now, Niederreiter. 2-on-1 with Aho. Centering pass. They score! Hey, what do you say? Sebastian Aho wins it in overtime.
It is time for the Inside Edge Hockey News Radio Show, episode number 18, recorded on March 13th, 2019. I am the host of the show, Brad Baroud from Inside Edge Hockey News. Today on the show, we are going to break down overrated players in the National Hockey League, talk about the underrated players of the National Hockey League, and we're going to do it through three medians. We're going to talk about what the fans think. That was done through a Facebook poll I did. Great response on that one. Talk about what I think, who I feel is overrated and who I feel is underrated. And then we'll take a look at an article that was published last week in The Athletic by Ian Donomi. A wonderful article in where a lot of the writers for The Athletic polled NHL players and found out who they think is overrated and who they think is underrated. We'll compare those to who I feel and how the fans, and kind of break it down and talk a little bit about what players are what. There'll be some surprises and some ones we probably won't be surprised on. A big thanks goes out to our sponsor, Hockey Community. Check out that website. It's a great social networking website for hockey fans, hockey players. Great hockey news on there. You can find every article from Inside Edge Hockey News on there. You can also find goalies for your men's league tournaments, buy hockey equipment. It's everything on hockeycommunity.com, and we thank them for their sponsorship.
Hockey Community, a social media website dedicated just for hockey. It's a one-stop shop in searching for games, players, stick and puck, tournaments, and yes, goalies.
Let's talk overrated players in the National Hockey League. Kind of a controversial topic. Probably one that NHL players probably don't want to sell out other members in the NHLPA and calling them overrated. But fact is the fact. There's a lot of players that are overrated in the National Hockey League. When I did this and I looked at my overrated players, I did one thing different than I think a lot of people probably do. There's a difference between overrated and overpaid. You know, my first guy on my list when I thought was probably Milan Lucic. But he's not overrated. He's overpaid. None of us expect Milan Lucic to put up 30 goals this year. We just think it's ridiculous what he's getting paid. When The Athletic did this, they polled a large group of players. 63% of them answered this question. The rest hesitated to because, it's tough to say what peers are overrated. It's interesting, the results. Erik Karlsson took back 4% of the votes. Dion Phaneuf, 4%. Aaron Ekblad, 6%. A lot of defensemen. Patrik Laine, the only forward to make their poll, at 9%. And PK Subban took home 23% of the votes. Now, when I first saw PK's name on there, I thought, that's interesting. But I can't disagree. Just because you're flashy doesn't mean you're good. Just because you like to talk and be the center of attention doesn't mean you're good. Now, I don't think PK is a bad player. I think he's got a pretty good shot. But beyond that, he's not a great skater by any means. And I think if you ask Nashville, they get frustrated quite frequently with his defensive play. Is he bad? No. But we all think of him as this super all-star when actually he's just a good 3-4 defenseman. Sometimes slots in it too. Now let me talk about my 5 that I came up with, and none of mine matched what the players said. And I have my reasons, and the last part of the show we'll talk about what the fans said in a poll I put out. But let's talk. My number 1 was Drew Doughty. And here's why I say that.
Burns slipped it up the wall enough to get the puck ahead.
Behind the play, Thornton and Kopitar were hacking each other and going at it.
Forward staying home and avoiding the deep by Donskoy, but there's
Doughty.
an injury behind it. It's Drew Doughty.
That entire shift, I mentioned Kopitar and Thornton, they were cross-checking, slashing each other, and I was looking at it right now. That is not the most important thing, obviously, with Drew Doughty down. He's okay, it looks like, because he's able to communicate now. He's looking for help from the linesman on the play, maybe.
Drew Doughty puts up points, and I'm not just picking on him for this year because he's minus 29. And I know a lot of people hate plus minus. I don't. I think it's a very, very valid stat. If you're on the ice when the other team scores, that's not good. Now, Drew Doughty is good offensively, but is he slightly overblown? He's got 5 goals this year, and defenseman, I know, your thing isn't to score goals. Your thing is to stop goals from coming in. I think they're the easiest to pick on. I have 2 defensemen in my top 5. When the players did their poll, 4 of their top 5 are defensemen. Defensemen are by far the easiest to pick on, and I don't think that's right, because we expect them to put up big numbers and be extremely good on the back end. That's not really very realistic. But Drew Doughty heads my list. I think he's deteriorated each year the last couple years, and I think that's a trend we'll probably see continue. My second is Dougie Hamilton. Dougie Hamilton can score goals. He can. Very, very offensively talented defenseman. But Dougie Hamilton gets moved from team to team to team and was rumored to be on the block this year in Carolina. How much can we move this guy? Oh, he got ran out of Boston. I shouldn't say run out of Boston. They didn't want his services, and he was putting up points for them. Went to Calgary, put up great points for them. But if you watch a lot of Calgary Flames games, and a lot of their good fans would say that he was an extreme defensive liability last year, and they were happy to see him get moved to Carolina. This year he's got 13 goals, 17 assists, 30 points in 69 games, and was on the block again at trade deadline. Or rumored to be on the block. I don't know. There's something there on this one. My third and fifth will probably get a lot of controversy and probably get me some emails and tweets later tonight. My third is TJ Oshie. 42 points in 58 games. But where I look at Oshie is, if you went up to a group of fans and said, name the top 20 players in the league, he'd probably make a lot of people's lists. Played a huge part in the shootout for the Olympics. That gained him a ton of exposure. But TJ Oshie is a very good forward, but he's not a great forward like a lot of people make him out to be. Now, 42 points in 58 games, no, I'm the first one to admit that's nothing to shake a stick at, by any means. But I don't think he's as quality of a player as we've made him out to be. He's been surrounded by a lot of big talent in Washington, and is fed off of that. The next one is Kyle Turris. I don't understand this one. I always looked at Kyle Turris as one of the top-end power forwards when he was in Ottawa, and I thought, man, this guy's got all the potential. He gets moved to a Nashville team. I thought, holy cats, this guy's going to go through the roof with points and just perform like crazy. Well, he's got 22 points in 45 games, just 7 goals. You'd be hard-pressed to find too many people in Nashville that are going to be happy with the production they're getting from Kyle Turris. That's been a real frustrating one. and one that has really, really surprised me. Now, the fifth one is one that I'm probably going to get some heat on. And that's Matt Murray of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Yes, I know he's raised the cup twice. And you don't just do that by getting lucky. But Matt Murray's been the king of timing. He walked into that Pittsburgh organization and filled in for an injury and reaped the rewards of it. Did he play good? Yeah, he played good. Did he win in the clutch? He did. With a wonderful, wonderful team around him. Matt Murray has a career .917. Same exactly as where he's at this year. But people have complained about him this year. People have said that maybe he's lost it a little bit. Well, he's at his career average of save percentage. I think Marc-Andre Fleury played a huge role in the success of Matt Murray, in the way he was put into situations. And he had a great team in front of him. And you know what? It'd be pretty ignorant of me to say that Matt Murray's not a good goaltender. But I think because of his Stanley Cups, a lot of people put him into an elite goaltender category. And I can't do that. I don't think he's an elite goaltender. Good one? Yeah. There's probably about 15 teams that would love to have him. It's funny how when you look at goaltending now in the National Hockey League, how the amount of what we consider elite goaltenders has gone down. Matt Murray's good, but I think he's a little bit overrated.
InsideEdgeHockeyNews.com, your inside source for interviews with players and members of the hockey world. InsideEdgeHockeyNews.com.
Now let's talk a little more positive, and that's the players that are underrated in the National Hockey League. 55 different players receive votes in this category in the players poll done by The Athletic. Alexander Barkov was a clear favorite at 26%.
And Kulak's got the puck again. Kulak thought he had one last night. Taking off the boards. Here comes Barkov. Broken in. Barkov in there. What a goal by Barkov! That will be on the highlight reel all month long.
And I would have to agree wholeheartedly. If this guy was in Toronto, holy cow, would we hear about him. It would be at a level it'd be more than Mitch Marner. This guy's very, very good. Let's roll through the other ones. Nicholas Backstrom received 8%. Braden Point received 8%. Jared Spurgeon received 6%, a little bit of a surprise one there. And Mark Giordano received 5%, and I wholeheartedly agree on that one. Mark Giordano has been an amazing story, actually, when you think about it. For a player that went undrafted, signs in Calgary, Daryl Sutter sends him packing. He goes over and plays a year in Russia, comes back and steps into a top 4 position for Calgary and has held a top 2 position on the back end and team captain for some time now. The guy can put points up, but most importantly, he is an absolute rock on the back end for that Flames defense. I don't know what that team would do without a guy like Mark Giordano. He is there day in and day out. A great leader to follow in Jerome McGinley's footsteps, to be honest with you. Done great things. Very, very underrated. Again, thanks for the great poll that we've utilized in this podcast from The Athletic. Great information out of that. We'll throw in, and now I'm going to throw in my 2 cents on who I think is underrated. And I have a list that's bigger than my overrated, Probably because I like talking about guys that have done good. I hate ripping on players, but you got to do that too. You got to, face facts. And can you believe I left Dion Phaneuf out of my overrated? He used to head my list every year on that, and I let him be this year. It's kind of finally found a role that he probably can excel in, even though he's struggling at that this year too. Underrated. Here's my thoughts on underrated players. Mike Hoffman, Florida. Not just because he's in Florida. I know he got talked about a ton in Ottawa. But the guy's got 61 points, 31 goals in 69 games. And Mike Hoffman does not get talked about a lot. Heck, there was rumors of him being available at deadline and he didn't go. Which shocks me because I would think a lot of teams would want a guy like Mike Hoffman. I don't think the Carlson situation helped his bargaining power any. Brock Nelson of the New York Islanders is another one that I give a lot of credit. 21 goals, 69 games, 44 points. Does a good, quiet job for that Islanders offense. Timely points. He's a guy that is entering free agency now, and I'll be interested to see what happens with Brock Nelson because I think he's an underrated player. My number one most underrated player, and this is all based on location, 100%, Oliver Ekman-Larsson. The guy is a rock on defense for the Arizona Coyotes, and he's signed long-term there. And they're going to love it. And look what Arizona's doing. What a great story. Play themselves into a playoff spot last night. Holy cow. A team that's been ravaged with injuries. They are the third. They've lost manpower games. They have lost the third most in the National Hockey League this year. And they have fought themselves into a playoff spot in the Western Conference. And I can't help but think that Oliver Ekman-Larsson hasn't played an enormous role in that. Another one I wrote down, and I know people will say, well, he's not underrated. But I think he is. Mikko Rantanen in Colorado. Yes, he gets talked about. But are we really talking about how good this guy is? Unbelievable points last year. He's got 86 in 70 games this year. The guy is a goal-scoring machine and gets assists like crazy too. When that line in Colorado is gelling, they are fantastic. One of the top lines in the National Hockey League. The sad thing is they're just not enough to carry the rest of the team. When you say Colorado Avalanche to a lot of people, Mikko Rantanen's name is not the first one that comes out. It was Matt Duchene for a long time. Now it's Nathan MacKinnon, and how do you argue that? That guy's amazing. And Mikko Rantanen's right there too. I think he's slightly underrated. Another guy is Cam Atkinson. 63 points, 67 games. Was it 2 years ago, or was it last year? I lose track. When he got off to the start of the season with a goal-scoring tear, it was just absolutely lighting up the National Hockey League, and then faded off. But he's doing it again this year. Cam Atkinson's a very effective forward and one not talked about a lot in Columbus. Mark Giordano, we mentioned him earlier on the players poll. I got him down as a extremely, extremely underrated player. I got two more underrated guys that came to my mind when I was researching this and kind of going through who I really thought was underrated and overrated. Sebastian Aho in Carolina. He's gotten a lot more press this year, a lot more talk about him this year. Speedy forward, 77 points in 69 games. But man, if this guy wasn't in Carolina, if this guy was in Minnesota, if this guy was in Boston, could you imagine? You imagine if he was in any of the Canadian markets? Holy cats, we'd hear all about Sebastian Aho. He's a hidden gem for Carolina. That guy is good, flashy, and can put up points. My last guy is a guy that I've targeted since the expansion draft that sent him to Vegas. Alex Tuch. Vegas signed him to an extended contract. 48 points, 62 games this year for the Golden Knights. But he's a big body up front and very, very effective up front. He's a guy that, man, teams would sign up, would want his big body on a top six. He's going to play a big role in. I thought he played a big role in the playoffs last year for the Golden Knights, and I look for the same this year. I think he's a guy that will even show off his worth even more come playoff time. Alex Tuch is one of my top underrated players in the National Hockey League.
Inside Edge Hockey News, bringing you inside the game.
It's time to talk Facebook poll. I asked the fans who were the most overrated and underrated players, and I got tons and tons and tons and tons of responses. And thank you to all the listeners. We really enjoy putting this show out, and we hope you enjoy listening to it. Drop us a line if you have any questions, comments, things you'd like to see on the show, changes you'd like to see to the show, anything that you want to, any questions you have. We'd love to answer them on the show. Get a hold of us on Twitter at Inside Edge Hockey. Let's talk overrated, and this is who the fans put out. So I can defend some of them I can't. Some of them I didn't put on here because some people like to be goofy on Facebook and put stupid things. I don't want to report on stupid things. So let's talk about the legitimate answers I received on the Facebook polls. Overrated. Philip Forsberg? I don't know about that one. I don't know that he's a huge star in the league to be considered overrated. I think Ryan Reeves is. He was named. I think Ryan Reeves gets more notice because of his toughness, and that gets talked about a lot. I actually think Ryan Reeves does a pretty damn good job of playing the game and filling that tough guy role. 30 teams would love to have Ryan Reeves, and the only one I'm not naming is the team that has him, the Golden Knights. So I have a hard time saying that he's overrated because he produces in different ways. As much as I don't like Tom Wilson, I think Tom Wilson's a very, very effective player. We're out of the type of hockey where fear is a determining factor, but it's still relevant. Think about when your favorite team plays Washington or plays Vegas. You sure know when Ryan Reeves is on the ice, don't you? You sure know when Tom Wilson's on the ice, don't you? The fear factor's there. And Ryan Reeves and Tom Wilson can both score goals, so I don't think you can call them overrated. The next guy on the list I do think that you can call overrated, and that's Max Pacioretty. You know, he just doesn't score as many points as what I guess was expected. A lot of being overrated is not meeting expectations. James Neal was listed. I don't know if that's fair. James Neal's had a terrible year in Calgary this year. He's injured right now, but terrible year. But I don't think you can call a player overrated because of how he's failed to meet expectations in 70 games. If James Neal comes back healthy and plays for the Calgary Flames in the playoffs, and they go on a deep run and James Neal scoring timely points, I guarantee you everybody forgets the turmoil and the problems that James Neal has had this year. One thing that scares me about James Neal is, has he lost the speed that will allow him to keep up at the league level now? That's my only thing, is he's lost a step. We'll see how he comes back. Jonathan Toews was named. I have a problem with this. Jonathan Toews is what I feel one of the best players in the league because of what he does besides scoring goals, if that makes sense. If you had to tell me to pick one captain in the league right now, I'd pick Jonathan Toews. He does so much other things that I can't put him on my list. Jack Eichel was named. I would say no. I would say he's overpaid, not overrated. Dion Phaneuf was on the list. Yes, I completely agree. Dion Phaneuf has been overrated since he left Calgary. PK Subban was named. Same as what the players came up with. How do you argue what the players say? Matt Murray was named. That was one I agree with and I had listed. Alex Pietrangelo was named, and I would agree there. Is he meeting the expectations? No, I would say no. Another one that should be probably on everybody's list, and that's Jonathan Drouin. Complete failure in Tampa. And how do you be a failure in Tampa? Like, that's about as easy a place to succeed as there is. And he can say he didn't get the opportunities or get the chances, but I don't know. I disagree. Look at all the young players coming through there, the Braden Point, Cedric Paquette. Oh, the list goes on of young players that have went through Tampa Bay and succeeded. He's definitely been an overrated player. Brent Burns is another one listed. I don't think that's fair. I think Brent Burns is a hell of a hockey player, physical presence, could score. Does he make some defensive mistakes? Yeah, but you know what? You'd be hard-pressed to tell me a defenseman that doesn't. I couldn't add him to my list. Matt Duchene was named. I don't know how you say that. Well, the guy puts up points. Yeah, he's struggling now when he's in Columbus, but he just got there. What the hell do we expect from him? I thought he was good in Ottawa. I think he struggled and could have been more deemed overrated when he was in Colorado, when he seemed to underachieve more than anything. Next one on the list, Corey Schneider. I'm okay with that. Even though expectations have dropped so much that it's hard for him to be overrated. Corey Schneider has come on tough times the last couple of years. Injuries have played a role. I think Corey Schneider is a hell of a good goalie. But I also think he's probably a goalie that's not going to get a whole lot of other chances. And New Jersey needs him to be good. I just don't know. That's a career that you just shake your head at, because he went from a goalie that consistently day in and day out was at the top of his game. And now you can hardly trust him in net. He didn't win a game for a calendar year. So I guess I'm good with having him on the list. The next one I wholeheartedly agree with, and that's Henrik Lundqvist. Is he a good goalie? Yep. Is he an elite goalie? No, not in my mind. Now, yes, in his defense, he doesn't have a team to win with now, but he was given a team numerous times to win with and couldn't do it. He hasn't won. Has he been good and has he been solid? Yes. Was he elite at times? Yes. Is he elite now? No. Is he thought of by many as being one of the best now? Yeah. Is he? I don't think so. I know a lot of people would argue that with me, though. I don't know. I don't see that one. Patrick Laine makes a list. He was named on the players along with Erik Karlsson. Also named on the players. I can't argue those. Carey Price was named. I don't know how I feel about that. Carey Price has not been good the last year and a half. He's had flashes in that year and a half of being very, very good. Again, he's another one. Kind of ironic. I shouldn't be ripping on him after the accomplishment he achieved last night. He's also never won. He's been there. He's been a good player for the country of Canada. He's been great for the Canadians through most of his career, so probably a little unfair to be throwing overrated tags on him now. Are we going to consider him overpaid over the next few years? How could we not? He's signed for so many years. Can he be healthy and play good for that many years? I guess time will tell. Vladimir Tarasenko makes a list. I don't know how I feel about this guy. I tell you what, here's how I feel. He looked awful to start the year. Downright awful. I watched numerous Blues games and he was slow. He looked out of shape. But how do you argue where the Blues are now? And Tarasenko has played a role in that. He's definitely improved over the last month. And St. Louis has firmly solidified that third spot in the Central Division, and that's impressive. I wouldn't want to play St. Louis in the first round of the playoffs. And either Winnipeg or Nashville is going to have to, and I don't think it's going to be an easy out. Michael Nylander makes a list, and I don't know. This is probably just a disgruntled Toronto Maple Leafs fan. Pissed off that, he didn't sign right away and they had to go through all that turmoil. Heck, that's all we talked about in the hockey world for 4 months, 3 months. Ugh. They signed him, and I think a lot of people expected he was just going to roll on in and put up points after point after point, and that hasn't been the case. Has he been better of late? Yeah, I think he's been pretty good. And I think he'll be good for the Leafs in the playoffs. The last two that people listed were Ryan Suter, both Minnesota Wild. Sorry, Wild fans. Ryan Suter and Devan Dubnyk. Ryan Suter, that's unfair. I think you're looking at his price tag, and instead of saying overrated, you're thinking overpaid. Because he is overpaid. Devan Dubnyk. I don't know. Did the hockey world think Devan Dubnyk was that great? Pretty much got run out of Arizona. Edmonton had a short stint there. Minnesota took him on as just kind of a wing and a prayer and ended up being amazingly good for them. I think Devan Dubnyk's a good goalie, but I think he's a product of a good Minnesota system. Devan Dubnyk plays in a Minnesota system where they don't allow a lot of shots, and Devan Dubnyk, it's kind of the old Martin Brodeur factor. Is Martin Brodeur good? Yeah, he's great. But would he have been that great on a team other than the New Jersey Devils? No. The New Jersey Devils played a lockdown defense that suited goaltenders. He made hay with their system. Are people going to get mad at me for saying that? Yeah, probably. I still think he's a great goalie, but I don't think he's as great as a lot of people think he is. Now let's go on to the Facebook poll and talk about underrated players and who our listeners pegged as underrated. Some good names on the list. Started off Dylan Larkin. Yep, great player. Gets recognition, but isn't recognized as a superstar that he is. Detroit will like him for a long time. The next one that makes the list is Calgary Flames center Michael Backlund. Michael Backlund's been a great second-line center for the Calgary Flames for a lot of years. When that guy gets going, the team gets going. Yes, the first line is very critical in Calgary to the team's success. But when that Matthew Tkachuk, Michael Backlund, Michael Frolik line, the 3M line gets going, then the Flames really go. Then they have that 1-2 punch that really makes them an elite team. I think Michael Backlund is very critical to the success of the Calgary Flames down the stretch. And yeah, I do agree. He's underrated. Philip Forsberg, Nashville Predators makes the list on the fan poll. I would agree. Boy, he scores a lot of goals for Nashville. Key to their offense. I would say he's a slightly underrated player. Ryan O'Reilly. I am probably the worst guy to talk about this because I've been extremely critical over the years of Ryan O'Reilly. I've always kind of thought he was a little overrated in my mind. But his numbers and his face-offs prove me wrong. And I've been proved wrong by quite a few friends in this category because Ryan O'Reilly has been a good player. Mark Giordano made the list. Alexander Barkov, we've talked about them, both no-brainers as underrated players. Jake Getzel makes the list. Yeah, I don't really consider him too much of a household name around the league outside of Pittsburgh. Claude Giroux makes a list. I wholeheartedly agree there. The guy's up in the top 5 and scoring all the time and never gets the recognition and credit for it. Jonathan Huberdeau makes the list of Florida. It's easy to make the list in Florida. You get no love down in Florida, do you? He's a good player. Evander Kane makes the list, and I agree. I picked him up in fantasy hockey this year, and I'm really glad I did. Evander Kane is extremely underrated. When he signed in San Jose, I actually was one of the few people that I was talking to that day that said that was a good signing. I worried a little bit about the term and worried about his discipline. If that guy stays out of trouble, he's a force to be reckoned with on the ice. He plays a mean game, he plays a physical game, and the guy can score. Evander Kane, mark my words, will be the biggest key player outside of goaltending in San Jose come playoff time. If Evander Kane plays with anger and plays a strong physical game, he will be a force to be reckoned with in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Braden Point makes a list in Tampa. We're going to name another Tampa guy, and Tyler Johnson. Both great forwards. Shifty forwards that both put the puck in the net. Tampa Bay is just so deep with talent that you're just going to have guys that get forgotten. How do you not? That's a talented team. The last one that was written in was Matt Cullen. And boy, do I give this guy credit. For him to be doing what he does at his age, he's hoisted the cup. I don't even know if I might be wrong on this, but I think 4 times. He's a winner. Great face-off guy. He's just a hard-working, gritty player that gets the job done, and he gets it done through hard work. Again, thanks to all the listeners for your responses. Thanks to The Athletic for a great article. I loved it. It was fun to be able to compare what the fans to the players to what I think for overrated and underrated. Check out The Athletic. You should subscribe and read it daily. It's just the amount of good quality coverage there is outstanding. Thanks again to the fans for your input. If you have any questions, tweet me, email me. We appreciate all the listeners. Like us on Facebook. And enjoy this week's hockey action.
Zaitsev's wrist shot deflected right on, they score! Willie Nylander ties the game! Seconds after the DeBrusque goal!
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Inside Edge Hockey News Radio Show. A big thanks goes out to our sponsors, Hockey Community. Check out InsideEdgeHockeyNews.com for all your hockey news, and follow us on all forms of social media. Tweet us your questions and comments at Inside Edge Hockey, and most importantly, download the Inside Edge Hockey News Radio Show on your favorite podcatcher. We are on Spreaker, SoundCloud, iTunes, iHeart, YouTube, and Spotify. Thank you for listening, and enjoy this week's hockey action.
Boy, are these guys fun to watch.
Hello, he was flat.
Wow. That's a statement.
Another heartbreak in Boston for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Tired of calling or texting around looking for players for your hockey games? Upset that no one seems to respond to your email or even Facebook invites? Yeah, pretty frustrating, right? Lucky for you, there's Hockey Community, a social media website dedicated just for hockey. It's a one-stop shop in searching for games, players, stick and puck, tournaments, and yes, goalies. But there's more. As soon as you sign up, you will see every game and player updates within 50 kilometers of your location. Thanks to our innovative technology, rinks and leagues can connect their schedules to our site, and we'll show you what's happening around. Whether you want ice, roller, street hockey, or even floorball, you can connect with the sport anywhere you go and right from your pocket. Check out hockey-community.com now to see more.
Thanks for listening to the Inside Edge Hockey News Radio Show. We hope you'll pass along our website address, InsideEdgeHockeyNews.com, to your friends and colleagues. Check out the radio show archive on our website for previous radio shows. The website also features numerous articles, videos, and blog posts. This has been an Inside Edge Hockey News production. Join us next time for another entertaining edition of the Inside Edge Hockey News Radio Show.
This has been a production of Inside Edge Hockey News Radio, copyrighted and distributed by the Inside Edge Hockey Media Group.